Just as a heads up for those who like putting this on the background, I will be using visual examples. With the release of the latest DLC for Borderlands 4, the developers have reintroduced the pearlescent rarity into the game. This has not been seen since the last, and rather poor, implementation in Borderlands 2, where from 12 pearlescent weapons, half were either too conditional or weak that they were almost unusable, while the other half suffered from yet another divide in being either barely functional with a hyper-specific niche build, or just being alright in general. So what happened for them to screw up again in this round? Honestly, everything. From how to earn them to what the weapons are. This is an all-around letdown for a class that is supposed to be beyond a legendary. So let's start with how to earn them and how this part went wrong. In both the DLC mission and around the main areas to play, there is a battle event you can manually start. During this battle, a time limit will activate, and you must defeat specific enemies in the crowd to collect and dunk items they drop. Doing this enough times will force a mini-boss to spawn. Defeating this mini-boss has a chance to drop a pearlescent each time. You can summon up to 3 in each event, but if you don't complete it in time, any enemies will despawn, including the mini-bosses. So how did this go wrong? Well, 3 parts did. When an enemy drops the item you need to collect, they have a decent chance to summon their inner FIFA World Cup power and dropkick the bloody thing into the stratosphere of Kairos, or the horizon, wasting precious time in the process. In the base game areas, this hurts a lot since the event takes place in open terrain, and you can't move too far from the event. So when this happens, there's almost nothing you can do except landing a frame-perfect grab before your fate is sealed. The next one is that in the areas for the base game, the event can just waste a lot of your time by spamming wave after wave of minions that don't drop the thing you need. In a timed mode, this is one of the stupidest things a developer can introduce. And lastly, enemies can just stop spawning at all. I even have footage of it. Not much else to say on this part. But let's say you did get around this with either brute strength or using the mission replay exploit that's still working by the time I'm making this video. Are the pearlescents even worth it? I'm sorry to say no. No, they aren't. Let's start with the first one that's literally guaranteed to drop through the mission replay exploit. The weapon that's supposed to be the clear poster child for this rarity. The hand cannon. This weapon uses the sticky rounds system, where the more rounds you apply to an enemy before detonating, the total damage will increase. Though this normally has a window of 10 seconds upon the first round applied, the hand cannon's special perk is that while the sticky round is applied, the round will deal 5 additional explosions before the main detonation if you do not reload manually. While this sounds nice on paper, here's where the devs dropped the ball so hard it looks like it was intentional. While normal stickies last for 10 seconds, this gun's stickies only last for 6. And while the additional explosions deal around 14.5% bonus damage for each pulse, technically boosting each round's damage by a little over 70% if you wait. Relying on these pulses in action feels so terrible that it's just easier to ignore this part entirely and use it like a regular gun. especially since at the highest difficulty, most enemies will not die from a singular paced shot, meaning you'll most likely fire more rounds into them. Couple this with its low magazine size, and you'll be forced into reloading before you even get the full bonus damage from this ability. This gun is fundamentally flawed, with its ability not having enough time to breathe, and simply not having enough damage to matter. Next up, the Eigenburst shotgun. While sporting what looks like high base damage for its kind, and works well enough on minions and elites, this weapon is brought down by another set of debilitating impairments that make it feel bad to use. The unique spread for its pellets wouldn't be so bad if it didn't have the triple whammy of being a burst fire weapon, having a low magazine size to boot, and costing 2 ammo per shot. But its perk is kind of decent, right? Even if it is on the bland side. Sadly, the problem is, it's not enough. The damage bonus will go up to 100% on the last shot, but this isn't the first time this perk has appeared in Borderlands 4. The Bugbear Assault Rifle was the first to have this ramping damage bonus, and due to it being so conditional and poor at the same time, this perk got completely doubled for the Bugbear in a later update. So why give another weapon the same perk, especially the older and worse version? Next is the Conflux Sniper Rifle. The hyperconditional perk of needing an enemy to be afflicted with status effects to get 100% more damage for each status is brought down by the simple fact that by the time you're done jumping through these hoops just to get any value out of this ability, either the enemy will be dead, or you could have moved on to the next fight with other, more powerful, and straightforward weaponry. These weapons were set up to fail their rarity. These should be more than okay. Being of the new highest rarity, they should be worth it. They should excel at what they do. Because if not, why even go for them? Why do they exist when other weapons that are easier to obtain steal the spotlight? I know around half of Borderlands 4's legendary arsenal is better treated as a lame joke instead of a viable weapon. But did Gearbox really have to make sure the pearlescents were as equally sad? Just as another note, while editing this video, I found another problem that hinders their viability in a player's loadout. Another intrinsic ability shared across all pearlescents currently is that they have basically an intrinsic second element, and if you're fighting an enemy weak to that element, the weapon will automatically convert all outgoing damage from it into that secondary element. This problem is it can hinder player builds that utilize multiple elements at the same time. Currently, the build I have been using includes a shield called the Watts for Dinner, and as long as I have any overshield, I get a additional layer of shock damage and shock status effect chance. This is very important for me because if I do shock an enemy, I get guaranteed critical hits on them for the next 2 seconds. But if anybody has been looking at the video while it's playing, I think you can notice that sometimes the guns themselves won't actually be dealing shock damage. The only reason this hasn't fully killed my build is because it also applies to my action skill, the Peacebreaker turrets that are on the corners of my screen. But even then, this additional stub in the toe of my build is something I very much do not like, and I can only imagine this hurting other players and maybe they don't notice. This is another terrible implementation of pearlescence. And as this video nears its end, I'm going to give one more closing statement. This is yet another batch of wasted potential. It is so genuinely infuriating to see Gearbox stumble and fall at something that they should have been good at for God knows how many years now. It's like watching someone beating themselves over the head with a gold brick or a very large diamond. And to be honest, I am fed up with it. I'll stick with this game, but this is the last one I will ever play. I don't care if there is a Borderlands 5 after this. I am finished and fed up with all the wasted potential I have seen through these games. This is the end of the video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching.